Okay, so I think you're right about the hypersexualization of everything, and there being not a lot that we can do about that. Being aware of
Mm,
yourself, how it's affecting you, is
mm,
a really important one, because it's something I've been pondering on a lot recently, asking myself in relation to women who have extremely high sex drive compared to the husbands, which
mm,
you would not expect stereotypically, right?
mm.
I'm not judging anybody. I'm asking myself, how much consumption of whatever's going on around them is
Mm.
feeding into that, right?
Wow.
Because while I am all for, if it's an everyday thing in your house, it should be an everyday thing in your house. Enjoy it. And, it's halal and mashallah, and may Allah preserve you both.
Two things come up for me. One is, as you say, um, if you feel, fulfilled, you're
Hmm.
fulfilled. There isn't a checklist, right? But I
Yeah.
think there's a situation where nobody talks about what happens behind closed doors, and you are none the wiser. Yeah. So of course, I don't know when that would have been, because I know that back home and back in the day, people talked, even if it was in the hammam, or, when they had their ladies coming together, or the henna night, people drop things, right?
Yeah.
But there would have been a sense of, okay, I may have a hint, but I don't know what's really going on, right? So that was then. Now we have a situation where I think probably in more practicing communities, right, where there isn't that kind of sensual, like open sensuality between women. I look at cultures like Moroccan culture, for example. Moroccan
Hmm.
culture is very sensual, right? But when Moroccans start practicing Islam, they do not bring the sensuality with them. They typically will kind of leave that, when they start practicing and kind of, being stricter with their deen. Often they will feel like there isn't room here for that kind of exchange. Anyway, so then you have a situation where no one is talking about anything, um, in which case you've got no idea whether it's is this normal, is this not normal, should I be doing this, should I be having that, how should it be feeding, how should I be doing. And if your mother and your aunties and your older sisters are also not talking to you, and your friends, you're too shy to ask them because you feel that this is haram and you don't want them to fall into haram, then you are in a silo, right? However, the society that we live in is so hyper sexualized,
Hmm.
and we can't avoid that. I mean, I'm not a Game of Thrones person, but I heard about Game of Thrones.
Me
Okay.
too. Never seen an episode, but I feel like I know the characters type
And
thing.
I've heard about it, right? And anyway, anytime you see a new series come out, films that come out, even music videos, if you might see them, and adverts just all around us, there is this hyper sexualized culture. And it's like, if you are in any way knowledgeable about that, you're hearing words, you're hearing terms, you're hearing positions, you're hearing of all this stuff that's happening out there. And I wonder how many of our sisters, maybe brothers too, but I think, talking primarily about sisters, wonder whether they are doing it right, whether they're supposed to be doing what they see that person doing, or wearing what that person is wearing, or maybe sex is supposed to be this way or that way or this way. What is it that sisters are sharing with you in that regard?
Okay, so I think you're right about the hypersexualization of everything, and there being not a lot that we can do about that. Being aware
Mm,
of yourself, how it's affecting you, is
mm,
a really important one, because it's something I've been pondering on a lot recently, asking myself in relation to women who have extremely high sex drive compared to the husbands, which you
mm,
would not expect stereotypically, right?
mm,
I'm not judging anybody. I'm asking myself, how much consumption of whatever's going on around them is
mm.
feeding into that, right?
Wow.
Because while I am all for, if it's an everyday thing in your house, it should be an everyday thing in your house. Enjoy it. And, it's halal and mashallah, and may Allah preserve you both. And I mean, long
I
life,
mean,
both of you.
I mean,
But if it is literally dominating your every thoughts every day and causing you a level of anxiety, you're actually teetering on addiction there. That's really important to be aware of in terms of what you're scrolling through. Because I know that I only follow, for example, on Instagram, well-being related pages on my business page and inspirational speakers and things like that. But on my personal page, I'll follow some foodie things, you know. But if I go on the Discover page, it doesn't take more than a couple of scrolls up before there's some nakedness there, right? And I'm talking about I'm not talking about no headscarf on. I'm talking about proper nakedness. Almost.
Instagram nakedness.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
and stuff like this. And I'm like, how's that ended up there? Like, how's that cookied into my kind of thing? Like, what's it doing there? And then you've got like really religious people either side of them, you know, because it's like, it's a grid, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, people see these things and they are either informed or disheartened by it. You know, they might, you know, see the way somebody's moving and think, I can't even move like that. So it's a real...
That's a good one. That is really, really, really interesting. Go on, please.
It's a real double-edged sword though, isn't it? Right. So it's either like inspiration for the halal. So it's like, if you go back to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and forgive me, I am paraphrasing here, and I stand openly be corrected by anybody who wants to correct me on this. When a man sees a woman, whether it's online, whether it's in the street or whether it's in the shop or at work or wherever, he was commanded by the Prophet ﷺ to immediately go home and make love to his wife, right?
Yeah.
And we know what the sense in that is. I know of women where their husbands have done that. The women have come to me and told me, and they've been disgusted by the fact that the husband's seen somebody else that he likes. And I'm like, but he did the best thing. It's like trying to explain. It's like he actually made the best decision he could make in that scenario. They're so abhorred by the fact he's even seen somebody else, but this is society. We have to kind of level with this. So going back to your original question, sorry, about, you know, them seeing these pieces of media and hypersexualization, and, you know, is it, the truth really is that some people are seeking education in porn. That's the truth. In the absence of adequate Muslim sex education for young people, they are seeking education in porn. And when you hear about some of the stories about women being hurt, physically hurt, and then obviously psychologically hurt, and the husbands might not have intended to hurt them that way, but they've seen something and they think that's how you do it, right? Because there's so much shame in asking for help. And that's part of the post-colonial hangover, if you like, if you want to call it something else. I don't know, maybe you've got a better term for it than that, but, you know, the hangover of colonialism, and why I talked about that prudish attitude coming in probably 18th century, if you like, onwards. You know, before that, Muslim communities tended to, in the Arabian Peninsula at least, have open, honest conversations about these things. Habiba Kande talks about one woman in a book, and I can't remember her name, and she's on her way back from Umrah. Allah forgive me for not memorizing the name. I should have memorized it. And Uthman was the, may Allah be pleased with him, was the caliph at the time. And she's on the caravan, she's in the caravan, should I say, she's on her camel, and she's obviously got drapes around her and things like this. And her husband looks at her in a way, and she looks at him in a way, and they know what they want to do on the camel, right? I know, right? I'm just like, I want to say how, I want to say, let me stand near a camel and say how, right? But Uthman himself, may Allah be pleased with him, is walking past her camel on his camel, and hears her. And it doesn't bat an eyelid because he knows what's going on is completely halal. You know, she's with a husband. Wow. And we don't know about these stories because we've not been, you know, and it's important that we do. Why? Because so many people are suppressing themselves so much. I mean, think about all the people who are living in houses with in-laws, you know, mother and father-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law. And I get economically, it's got to be one of the best. As a convert, I'm like, this is the best economic for every Muslim family. And I see lots of women obviously unhappy in the whole mother-in-law scenario. That's another conversation for another day.